What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Six Figures to Bigger Figures. This is my story of how I inherited, lost, regained, and will surpass a six-figure net worth. I'm bringing you along with me for the journey. All I ask is that you like, share, and subscribe to @6FTBF. Now, if you guys been paying attention to the news outlets outside of politics, and how they try to describe what's going on with the economy, you may hear this term that some outlets are using. They call it a wealth transfer, right? And they don't exactly explain how it's happening, but they mention that it is happening. And they also mention that this might be one of the biggest wealth transfers in the history of America. I don't know if it's going to be that extreme, but it is pretty significant. Now, here's the thing. I do agree there is a wealth transfer that's going on right now. What I don't agree with is the fact that they don't tell you how it's happening and how that you as an individual can participate in it. Okay, so that's why we're here today. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about what exactly is going on with these wealth transfers and how is it that we as an individual can participate in this. All right, now the first thing I'm going to say, and I want you to remember this, it's very important that you understand that wealth builds wealth. You need capital to build wealth. All right, remember that. All right, let's go.
It's 6 digits.
All right. So the first thing I'll talk about, and this is more of a macro level, but it's very, very important, okay? And there are many implications as a result of this that I won't get into for sake of time. But I think it's worth mentioning, and that's the government purchasing over $1 billion in corporate bonds. All right, corporations issue bonds to raise money. It's one of the cheapest ways to raise money without having to give up equity or ownership into that company. Right? So essentially, it's a loan between the corporation and the investor. The holder of that bond essentially lends that corporation their money in exchange for interest, a very small amount of interest, because a corporate bond is seen as being a very safe investment, right? It's low risk, so it's not associated with any high interest rates, but it's secure. Hence why people do it. Now, from a corporation perspective, you love to issue bonds because, as I said, it's cheap. Now, what happens is, if the government purchases over $1 billion in corporate bonds, essentially they're just giving low interest loans to corporations. And then they have that excess cash that's pumped into the system, right? You may hear this a lot, but this is what's happening. It's pumped into a corporation that can use that money to do a plethora of things, right? The idea is you use that money to continue operations, right? So the economy doesn't stop, it doesn't stall. What that entails is hiring people, giving bonuses, research and development, acquiring more assets, and investing. Okay, so it empowers that corporation. So who benefits from that? Well, the corporation, its leaders, and those associated with the corporation, right? Now, the other thing that happened was the payroll protection program and the other economic disaster loans that were issued. Now, you guys should be familiar with this. If you haven't, check out my prior episode, cheap plug. But essentially, the government issued these payroll protection program loans, or PPP loans, that essentially results in being just a grant of money, right, to business owners and corporations. If they can prove they maintain the same level of their workforce between an 8 to 24 week period. So if you're one of those 650,000 businesses that were granted a PPP loan, then, and you were in a situation in which your business not only maintained its same level of business, but even increased business, did better, once that loan gets forgiven, that essentially results in the grant. So that $150,000 to $5 million loan that you received or grant just goes to the bottom line, right? So you just added to your margins, essentially, right? You're just moving money around, all right? Now, again, who benefits from this? Business owners, leaders of those businesses, those associated with the business, right? Seeing the trend here? Now, let's talk about something a bit more micro, if you will. Interest rates. Now, I spoke about this injection of money. The injection of money into the economy at that scale, along with the Fed's outright reduction of interest rates, right, or to maintain historic interest rates as they've done, results in money being the cheapest that it has been in years. It's probably cost you the least amount of money to borrow money that it probably has ever cost anyone before. So what does that mean for you, right? That means that your home equity loans or your home equity line of credit, HELOCs, they're gonna have favorable rates. Business loans, favorable rates. Mortgages, refinances, they're all gonna have favorable interest rates. This is where your credit again comes into play, right? Your ability to manage your money, manage your credit, manage your assets, right? Becomes very important again. You know, these things stack on each other, right? They're all intertwined. You know, we gotta pay attention. Now, let's just talk about mortgages for interest of time, right? Let's say you're in a very fortunate position to purchase a home for $700,000, right? You know, it's a lot. Stick with me, right? Just hear me out. You put 20% down on that home, that's $140,000. So you finance 80% of it, or $560,000. So essentially that becomes a jumbo loan. At least in this state, that's what they call a jumbo loan. But you have great credit, and because of that, and you have the 20% to put down, you can realistically get a rate of 2.8% on a loan of that magnitude, right? That's really low. Here's what that means when we break that down. If you were to break that down to determine what that equates to in a monthly mortgage payment, your mortgage payments would be $2,800 a month, including your escrow for insurance and for property taxes. Now, for some of you, you may think, man, $2,800 a month is a lot. But on a loan of essentially $560,000, it's really not. If you don't believe me, ask your parents, right? Where they were paying astronomical interest rates, you know, in the teens and double-digit interest rates. Like, this is like ridiculous as far as they're concerned, right? But it's an opportunity, right? So back to this, right? This scenario, I want to give something very specific, okay? So the rate of inflation is 1.4%. And if the job that you work with, if they're worth a damn, they would at least give you a raise of at least 2% to account for this inflation, right? So what that means is essentially the true cost of financing your home is reduced by about half, right? 1.4%, because your purchasing power has increased by 1.4%, right? So just in a year's time, your ability to pay that interest becomes easier, in theory, okay? Now, homes on average appreciate 3 to 5% a year. So at that rate, your asset is appreciating almost 2 times as much or 2 times higher than it costs you to finance that asset. And on top of that, your interest that you pay on debt amortization is essentially simple interest. The appreciation of real estate is compound interest. So it's 2 times better, right? Let me give you some numbers to show what I'm talking about, right? This is a double win. So let's say in 10 years, in this same scenario that I just laid out for you, okay? Put down 140 to purchase a $700,000 house, you finance 560,000 of it. And over 10 years, you're paying regularly, like you should do, $2,800 a month. In 10 years, you'd have paid total interest of $137,000. It's a lot, right? But stick with me. The balance in your loan would be $406,000. Now, on the low side of appreciation, in the scenario of your home appreciating 3% each year, in 10 years, your home would be worth $941,000. That's over $500,000 in equity. On the high side, your home would be worth $1.1 million. That's $700,000 in equity in 10 years. Show me something else that's gonna do that. All right? If you know interest, you make it. If you don't, you pay it. So what am I saying? Take capital, purchase assets, build businesses, purchase stock, purchase real estate. That's how you participate in the wealth transfer. Otherwise, just gonna be left behind. All right? Peace, King.
It's 6 digits.